Hey everybody, it's John from Narcotic Casserole. Just wanted to let you know in this episode and possibly even the next, you might be hearing noises in the background that might sound like construction. Well, that's because construction's happening in my apartment complex, and unfortunately my microphone is really good. So if you're wondering what that background noise is, that's exactly what that is. So hopefully that will not interfere with your enjoyment of this episode. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
It was a time when artists like Orson Welles, John Houseman, and Diego Rivera were changing the rules. But when Washington decided to shut them down,
no one should be afraid of an idea.
The real drama began.
For the first time in American history, the government has sent armed guards to prevent the performance of a play.
When the storm breaks, the cradle will rock!
Cradle Will Rock.
Good morning to you on Rare Delicacies. With me, as always, is
Brett.
The first show we did together was I'm Saving It for Paul.
That was it, yeah.
I played Paul McCartney, and you played a Beatlemaniac
Yeah.
in drag. And yet, in that mere second, you stole the show, running on stage going, "Marry me, Ringo!" And from there, a friendship was indeed formed. You were telling me, fascinatingly, that there was a show that you did, a musical that you did, an obscure one. That came out during Depression-era America, and that musical was?
Cradle Will Rock. When you say a musical, people today have a very different idea. Cradle Will Rock is more along the lines of Three-Penny Opera than the musicals that come through, that are done on Broadway and on stage today. I'm not sure who was in the original cast.
Well, actually, I can help you with that, because the subject of today is the film Cradle Will Rock, which was directed by Tim Robbins. And it has an epic king-size cast, because this film is not just about the musical Cradle Will Rock, it's also about the political climate and how it's affecting the artist community in New York City during the Depression era. It talks about everything, ranging from the union strikes, there were
protests outside the theater.
It talks about the Federal Theater Project and how the government was sanctioning and they were overseeing what kind of shows were being done all throughout Broadway, and how it was actually affecting even down to the fact that they had to interrupt right in the middle of rehearsals to do 15-minute union breaks at that time. This film also chronicles the famous incident when Nelson Rockefeller commissioned the artist Diego Rivera to paint the mural in Rockefeller Center. It's one of those very kaleidoscopic films where it has a whole load of plot lines interweaving all throughout. But the ensemble cast, so much so that I have to read it off the box here. Hank Azaria, John Cusack, Joan Cusack, Carrie Elways, Angus McFadden, Bill Murray, Vanessa Redgrave, Susan Sarandon, John Turturro, and Emily Watson. And that's still not everyone mentioned there. It came out in 1999. I don't remember it getting like so many raves that everyone was like going, it was one of the best films of the year, but frankly I think they should have. I think the major awards consideration that it was getting for was Bill Murray's performance. In the film, Bill Murray plays a ventriloquist who's also rabidly paranoid about communism, and he's very protective of his act. He doesn't like the idea of people aping it because he thinks it's a communist activity. But he kind of represents that, the ill-informed people on the street who think they understand the problems and realizing they're just making it worse by being paranoid. So you've never heard of this film at all?
Well, I heard of the film, I've never seen it.
It's very multifaceted. There's moments where it's really funny, very dramatic. All the performances across the board are spectacular. Actually, for me, this was the first time I ever saw John Turturro. Anyway, because around this time I had not seen The Big Lebowski, I had not seen Barton Fink, I had not seen a lot of the stuff that we know John Turturro for, so this is the first time I saw him, and I was like, this guy, I need to see more of him. And lo and behold, surely enough, I ended up seeing Big Lebowski afterwards, and I'm like, we need more John Turturro, just not in the Nutcracker.
So unnecessary.
For you at home, cue up your Blu-ray players, this is Cradle Will Rock.
Until the final wind blows, and when the wind blows, the cradle will rock. That's thunder, that's lightning, and it's gonna surround you. No wonder those storm birds seem to circle around you. Well, you can't climb down and you can't say no. You can't stop the weather, not with all you know. Oh, when the wind blows, oh, when the wind blows, the cradle will rock.
So that brought back memories?
Oh man, I was so digging the music and all of it, singing along with, and I mean also understand, Cradle Will Rock is not only unlike a lot of the current offerings of stage musicals as a matter of form, but also as some of the music, it's not really atonal. Not all of it is like the real. Melodic toe tapping stuff that you tend to associate with them.
Yeah, it's not meant to be brassy or flashy. I mean, what did you think of the film as a whole? I mean, was it
everything? I still remember the director had also done a lot of research, and I'm sitting there thinking, yep, happened.
Yeah.
Happened. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, this is Tim Robbins who directed. This is Nuke LaLoosh who directed it. This is Philzy from Howard the Duck who directed this, and it's a staggering piece of work, and I'm really sad, to be honest, that this doesn't get as much play as a lot of other.
Agreed.
It's so much more ambitious, and yeah, we talk about the Great Depression, we talk about the union strikes, but we don't talk about that particular focus spot. And this talked about the Federal Theater Project, which I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
And to find out that the government were actually trying to have oversight over what kind of plays people watch, for fear of, oh my God, the workers actually realizing that we're being screwed over by the rich. This is the first time I saw the actress Cherry Jones. Most people remember her from, she was the president in season 7 to 24, I think season 8 as well. And she was also in Signs. She was the sheriff in Signs. This actress is spectacular. I loved all the scenes with her, is when she pretty much made them all look like idiots when they all thought Christopher Marlowe was a communist.
Yeah. I got a kick out of that.
Honestly, I would be shocked if there wasn't any kind of productions of Cradle Will Rock down the line that just wanted to recreate that first night. So this musical, written by Mark Blitzstein, was pro-union, and not only that, it was pretty much a full-blown indictment of the upper class and their exploitation of workers.
Did you say exploitation?
As Hank Azaria, as Mark here says, it's prostitution, to be more precise.
Yeah, everybody is a whore.
But what would it be to get you to compromise your integrity for the sake of staying on top? Which I could imagine during the Great Depression, that was everyone's obsession, was finding a way to stay on top and not drown, just for the sake of being able to have food on your plate. And the Fellow Theater Project obviously has some kind of noble intention, the idea of professional actors being able to have a steady job. It's just sad that the idea that the government has become so paranoid about the stuff that they're teaching, or that they're showing, that they can't even stand to have that.
Since the money came from us, we have the prerogative of controlling content and this sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, never mind that this thing was written way before, Marx and Engels came along. We don't need... No, they are obviously communist. Before there was, maybe Marx and Engels were inspired by them. The other subplot involving Diego Rivera and Nelson Rockefeller with the with the mural. This one chronicles, of course, a famous incident, which, if you've seen the movie Frida, they get into pretty dang intensely about the incident when Nelson Rockefeller commissioned Diego Rivera, who is a notorious communist, to paint a mural, and he insisted on painting a syphilis cell hovering over the an image of the upper class, and Lenin as well, because he considered him a revolutionary leader, kind of thing. And of course, that didn't sit well with Rockefeller, who was in bed with friggin' steel magnets and not steel magnets, but magnates, and William Randolph Hearst, who pretty much controlled the outpouring of information. The real fake news. There's a segment in the film where Cherry Jones' character, who runs the Federal Theater, actually is totally pro this show called Revolt of the Beavers, where it's basically about a land of beavers who get back at a greedy beaver who's trying to, from what I can imagine, exploit their...
It's a big fat bad beaver.
Just a big fat bad beaver. And unfortunately, the play winds up getting maligned and ends up adding gas to the fire. Oh, they're pro-communist or pro-union, pro everything, and she's just saying,
oh, they don't shoot the big fat beaver, they just kick him out of Beaverland. So what does that say?
Class war.
It's a fairy tale.
Big fat beaver is a big fat capitalist.
The big fat beaver is a bad big fat beaver. He is a greedy beaver. He's a bad beaver.
Big fat beaver is a big fat communist. He's a big fat bad beaver. Yeah. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. No, you had to go there.
Well, in addition, this is also... for crying out loud, it's the reason that John Lennon wrote "I Am the Walrus." People kept insisting
that it meant something.
That everything he wrote had this deep philosophical. There's something to puzzle out and everything.
It's like, no,
and when he insisted that they weren't, they said so many fans kept insisting there was, and he was like, "All right, show me the meaning in this," and gave him "I Am the Walrus."
I became very intrigued by Orson Welles because, not because I respected him. I respect him as an artist. I definitely know for a fact I would never have wanted to work with him.
You're not actors. You're smokers. You wouldn't know the church or the theater if it smacked you in the mouth.
Shut up, Orson, or I'll smack you in the
Fuck you, John.
Ever.
Admitted, yeah.
Yeah, and that's always been the fact. He's one of those people who is a brilliant artist, and if you've ever seen any of his movies, you know that he was a brilliant, brilliant artist, but unfortunately, yeah, he was a person who not only did he own the room, he made sure to rent out anyone who set foot in the room. He made sure that people were kissing his hand. And,
held court every possible moment.
The finished product he always got was always something interesting to look at. I've seen some great film performances of people as Orson Welles. I mentioned RKO 281 with Liev Schreiber. Outstanding. Me and Orson Welles, a film with Zac Efron. But Angus McFadden as Welles, I think, is probably still my favorite. And I think a lot of it has to do with his back and forths with Cary Elwes.
I'd hate to say it's a nightmare, a brilliant idea, poorly executed.
I've always said the play would work better on a bear stick.
Actually, Holly said that.
No, I said it
No,
first.
you didn't.
Yes, I did.
You didn't.
Yes, I
No,
did.
you
Yes, I did.
didn't.
Yes, I did.
Fine, Jack, you win. You got the biggest creative dick, okay?
Sure.
I believe in the party of ideas. No, you just believe in the idea of a party. Sparkling wet, Jack.
Leaving.
You can't leave. You're the producer.
That's right. And as the producer, I can fire whomever I please. And I am fucking fired.
He'll come crawling back like a bitch on heat to his master.
Cary Elwes. It's a thankless role. I mean, he's one smaller character amidst this wealth of other performers, and
true told, a tribute to a really, really good performance. And I love Princess Bride, and I don't know how long it was before I realized, oh, that's Cary Elwes. Okay.
Yeah, that's honestly the gift of Cary Elwes, and that's why I'm always delighted to see him, even when he's in garbage like the Oogie Loves. Oh, God. It's still just hilarious the fact that he dedicates himself to doing something like that. But even in a role like this, where he is basically playing second fiddle to Angus McFadden, and he still stands out, is a testament to him. But I think the one that definitely deserves some attention, of course, is Bill Murray, because this was around the time of like his big creative revolution. This is like around the time he had just fresh off the heels of Rushmore, which really got him a lot of critical praise. And this is about a year or two before he did Lost in Translation. But this was another one that established Bill Murray as a legitimate actor beyond just his comedic roots. Because I think prior to this, he was kind of running himself into the ground with movies like Larger Than Life and The Man Who Knew Too Little. So the fact that he bounced back and he started doing fare like this.
There were certain ones, I think, didn't he do like the Razor's Edge?
Actually, no, there was a quick change, which was the movie he directed.
The thing that I loved, and I was just about to ask when you mentioned, apparently Bill Murray did learn to be a really passable ventriloquist.
He did, actually.
And with no snark, honestly, try it.
I know, just try it. It's difficult, but if you actually try it, you actually you'll do good with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm dabbling.
It's possible, but you see, you think that you might be able to speak without moving one's lips, but still.
Well, it's not just about the lips; it's about your tongue.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, with him saying,
we're sorry to every ventriloquist. We are not actual licensed ventriloquists.
We're doing more hand puppetry. The two that come in, Jack Black.
Jack Black and Kyle. Yeah, friggin' Tenacious D. Before there was ever a Tenacious D, are in this movie.
Try again.
Now who's the dummy?
Now, who's the dummy?
Now who's the dummy?
Now who's the dummy?
Back of your mouth. But even with teaching hand puppetry, the thing that always bothers me is doing this, and I was like, I'm curious, when you speak, do you move like this? And people said, no, of course I said, then why the hell are you making me do it? It's like, this is what you do.
And even if I'm not mistaken, I mean, that kind of puppeteering would be like something like this.
It showed the inexperience and or the apathy of the person training
Yeah.
them, that they're using hand puppet moves that they won't even be using in the act.
Apathy. There's another good word to segue into the next topic. Focusing on Hearst, Rockefeller, and Philip Baker Hall's character, Mathers. I just recently reviewed the movie Velvet Buzzsaw. It's a new one on Netflix, and it's a satire of pretty much the apathy of the people who buy the art, the people who deal the art. You get the vibe they don't really give a damn about the art, just the prestige of owning the art.
Yeah.
And there's a whole focus on their side, where Susan Sarandon's character, Margherita Sarfatti, who's there to deal art for Mussolini. And there's a whole bit where she goes to each of their houses when they get the art. She's like, "Do you like it? Do you like?" Yeah, and they're all just like, "Oh yeah, yeah." They put it up there, and
the fact that they're, we're not talking about some independent. He's talking about Da Vinci for crying out loud.
Yeah, Philip Baker Hall's character gets a Da Vinci.
A Da Vinci.
You're owning a Da Vinci, and you're talking about something as trivial as putting it above your fireplace in your study. A place that basically no one's going to be able to see.
Well, it goes
this
with the
thing.
color scheme after all.
And it's like you basically have just turned a vital work from a vital artist into nothing more than you turn it into this. And you see her lament the fact that she knows that, actually it kind of goes back to the prostitution angle, is the fact that she knows that she has basically forfeit her right to be passionate about anything, and in the end just trading around art as if it's just, if anything else, another investment. And there's even a scene where Hearst is exchanging money with Philip Baker Hall's character, where he's saying, I'm only buying art. And you realize that in the end, this is actually just a money exchange.
Yeah.
This is him buying him off, and they're just using the art as an excuse to legitimize it. Sickening, the idea that they're
using great art as the rag to launder the dirty money.
And they're using the art to make themselves look cultured. They're making it to look like they actually are people of considerable depth and insight, when in reality they are probably the biggest whores of the bunch. So occasionally sweet, occasionally bitter, so bittersweet. This one definitely on the menu.